Velkommen til Filmz TV. I denne uge...
Oh my god, Filmz TV, what the hell is this crap? Who does this Johan guy think he is? Some kind of interviewer? This is a bunch of crap. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm on this show. This is embarrassment. I gotta go now. My cat's hungry.
Velkommen til Filmz TV. Årets CPH PIX-filmfestival er ved at ebbe ud, men der er blevet arrangeret en række ekstravisninger, som du kan læse meget mere om på PIX hjemmeside www.cphpix.dk. Men før festivalen sluttede, mødte vi en række af personlighederne bag nogle af programmets mest interessante film, og den ene var amerikaneren Mike Stoklasa, som lige før var så venlig at anmelde vores program. Stoklasa er manden bag flere af YouTubes sjoveste og mest sete videoer. Det er blandt en række anmeldelser af de 3 nyeste Star Wars film, som Stoklasa har nedsablet i en række fænomenale og veldrejede videoanmeldelser. Stoklasa har skabt et virtuelt alias, en sarkastisk seriemorder med en noget trist stemme, som på morsom, men også forbavsende saglig vis prikker hul i George Lucas' mildest talt middelmådige Star Wars prequels. Vi mødte Stoklasa i København, hvor det komiske stortalent, som faktisk er filmskoleuddannet, var troppet op for at introducere sin videoanmeldelse af Star Wars episode 1, den usynlige fjende, som blev vist under festivalen.
I didn't actually have the idea to make reviews, like per se, like I'm going to go out and start making movie reviews. It was just, the story goes, I bought Star Trek Generations because I hadn't seen it since the theater, and I hated it when I saw it in the theater. So it was like winter, and there wasn't a lot of work going on at the time. So I was like, oh, I bought it, and I watched it, and I just had this like urge just to really break it down about why I didn't like the movie, and I didn't even really know that people did that sort of thing on the internet. Like, I didn't even care. It was just sort of a thing that, it was like a little project that I was working on. And I didn't know or expect anyone to really watch it. You know, it's just one of those things where I was watching the movie, I'm like, that's wrong, that's horrible, that's wrong. And I'm just like, I can't really ever talk to anybody about this. You know, it's like something that would never come up in conversation in that level of detail. So I'm just like, I just started writing out a script for it, and then just started plugging all the points in and making like a video.
Star Trek Generations is the stupidest movie ever made. It ruined everything. And not just Star Trek movies, but everything. Why make a video review of this movie after it's been out for like 14 years? Well, the truth is, I've got nothing better to do. But I've always wanted to articulate all the little points about what I hate about this movie. So let's begin, shall we?
Over time, it got more of a method to it over time. It just basically starts with me writing a script out, and now I add the points in. And I think in the Generations review, I did 2 parts that were about 10 or 15 minutes long, and then I wrote the end at the second one, and I was like, oh, I have more. So I just continued on. It was really kind of a mess, you know. But now it's like I'll write out a script, and I'll try and get the script as tight as possible before I start doing voiceover. And then when I start doing voiceover, I'll usually ad-lib stuff. And then when I go on the editing process, I'll be editing something, and I'll notice a little something else. I'll go, oh, and then I'll make a secondary script of pickup lines, like a whole paragraph about, I want to add this about, you know, Luke Skywalker saying this or whatever little point that I come up with. So, and then it becomes like a refining process going back and forth between editing and voiceover. I originally recorded it as myself, and as you can see and as you can hear, I sound like a boring asshole. I'm just like, and I was just like reading it. It sounded like someone being sort of like, I don't know, just sort of, it's monotone, kind of boring. And I was like, well, let me do it. I did it in the character voice that my friend Rich and I had used before in earlier short films. So it's this voice that's kind of fun to improv with. And so I was like, oh, I'll throw this character in, and I'll do it in a character voice. And it was just it seemed like a natural progression or a natural thing to do. And I was like, oh, okay, this this adds a little level to it. You know, it makes it funny.
This is the first point they should have ditched Jar Jar. This is also the point when the movie starts to officially fall apart. This is the moment when the Star Wars saga is now damaged totally beyond repair. The lapses in common sense and logic begin to compound on the movie, and now it is broken. I could end this review here, but I'm really just getting started.
Well, it's astonishing, of course, how popular these reviews have gotten. Millions and millions of hits. Have you been surprised yourself by the popularity?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's something I did not expect at all. It's still strange to me.
And it must also be sort of surreal that you've now flown to a film festival in Copenhagen, almost the other side of the world, to talk about these films. Were you surprised when you got that call?
I was surprised, yeah. I said, are you sure you want to do this? Because I looked at all the other films, I looked at the website, and I was like, this looks like a nice film festival, like a highbrow, artistic film festival. Are you sure you want to play this? You know, and he's like, yeah, all right, because there's a bit of, you know, juvenile humor, a lot, not just a bit, you know, and it's not for everyone. I mean, I can see the appeal of the reviews themselves, like it's one of the things that I intentionally tried to do with it was the mixture of comedy and information. It's like going back and forth. You know, you give the audience a little bit, and then you take it away, and then you give them a little bit more, and you take it away. It keeps them interested. It keeps them watching for 70 minutes or 120 minutes or whatever. But the universal appeal, like one of the things like Jay was talking about with me about this festival. He's like, is that humor gonna translate? You know, like to like an audience. You know, I mean, I know everyone here pretty much speaks English well, but you know, it just seems like people in other countries, like I get emails from people in like South America. They want to translate the reviews to like Spanish and Portuguese and stuff, and I'm like, okay, go ahead. You know, is it still funny with Portuguese subtitles? I don't know. That part I don't understand. But I guess, I don't know, maybe it's everyone universally understands the Star Wars movies. Maybe that has something to do with it, because those are the most popular ones.
So the film is called The Phantom Menace, and by the nature of the story, there is no clear villain. Hey, idiot! You're not making the usual suspects here. You're making a movie for children, right?
Supreme Chancellor, delegates of the Senate. A tragedy has occurred.
Which started right here with the taxation of trade routes and has now engulfed our entire planet in the oppression of the...
How about a bad guy in the movie whose motivation is clear?
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive!
På trods af sin store foragt for de 3 nye Star Wars-film, har den oprindelige Star Wars-trilogi dog stadigvæk en helt særlig plads i Stoklasas hjerte.
Well, they're movies that I grew up with, and that's what everybody says. And I know the whole like George Lucas ruined my childhood angle, but I think that's like a crutch. That's something people say as an attack, because it's not just that. I think the original 3 were they're universally loved movies, and they can appeal to any audience, and people say that about the new ones. Oh, they're just movies for kids and all that stuff, but it's not necessarily true. I think they are bad movies, you know, and that was just kind of my point, was to kind of articulate why. But like, you know, I was inspired by the Star Wars movies. I've seen Empire Strikes Back a million times as a kid, and it's like those 3 movies are just like burned into my brain. I know every sound, every edit, you know, everything about them. And it's not just because I grew up with them or watching them, because you could watch them now and still like them. You can't go back and watch other things that you watched as kids and they don't hold up, you know. So, and I think, you know, it's like certain movies are timeless, and I don't think the new 3 are. And that's just sort of the point. It's just to articulate that.
Husk, at du kan finde alle vores tidligere Filmz TV-udsendelser på Filmz under Filmz TV-fanebladet, og også på video.dk, i iTunes og via vores gratis video-app.